Good morning. My name is Reverend Ron Card, and I would like to welcome you on behalf of the Centers for Spiritual Living Carlsbad in Carlsbad, California. It's a beautiful, beautiful sunny morning out there, and great place to be this morning. I'd like to begin a little differently than I normally begin. I'd like to begin with a spiritual mind treatment. So if you could get comfortable, and if you wish, you may close your eyes. Some people like to have their eyes closed. And as we move from the outer to the inner, it's the inner where spirit is. And this is what I know. I know that there is only one presence, one essence, one power, one energy that I call God. God is all there is. There is no spot. There is no situation where God is not. And I know that I am an expression of God, that God is in me, as me, and is me. And that whatever God is, I am. And I declare the same for each one of us. It is all God, and we are some part of God. And as I speak my word this morning through this Sunday morning message, I know that divine intelligence surrounds and supports me in all that I say and do. And I know that with God, all things are possible. I know that not only am I, but each one of us is directly connected to the infinite source of wisdom, of truth, of power, and love, called God. I now declare that each one of us is in the flow of divine energy and love, and that we can never become discouraged or frightened. I know that each one of us is always creating new experiences and events in our lives. I am blessed and I am thankful for this treatment as I choose to grow in understanding right here and right now. And I know that as I release this treatment to the universal creative mind, I release it to law or spirit. Changes begin to take place in my experience. I am calm and I am confident. And so it is. So it is. Just take that nice deep breath. Well, this morning, what I want to do is I want to talk about stress. I want to talk a little bit about the effects of stress on each one of us. Because some stress is normal and even necessary. But too much of it can really affect the quality of our lives and our health. You know, stress is a normal and unavoidable part of our lives. You can experience stress from environment, from things happening around you, from your body, your health, and also your thoughts, what you're thinking. So all we have to do is look around us right now in the world around us. So many things happening, especially within the last 2 to 6 months. So, what am I really talking about here? What actually is stress? Stress is the body's reaction to any changes that require an adjustment or a response. The body reacts to these changes with physical or mental or emotional responses. To give you a little idea, do you realize that you will probably do more this year with appointments, with people to meet and places to go, than your grandparents did their entire lives? Imagine that. That is powerful. Imagine that. Given our current place, we barely have time to relax and cultivate relationships with our spouses and our children, our friends, our neighbors, nature, and much less God. Take our current situation today. There have been so many changes in such a short period of time. We have been ordered to stay home. Stay home for a week or 2 weeks is one thing, but stay home for 2 months or longer is quite another thing. There's no place to go because everything is shut down. And then if we do go out, we have to wear masks and gloves when we leave home. And when we shop for our groceries, it is completely different. They only let so many people in at one time, and sometimes the lines are pretty long, but it's getting a lot better. And then when we get in, we have arrows to show us which aisles we go up and which aisles we go down. And we have to keep this thing called social distancing. But also more than that, before this whole thing started, many people have jobs. They were working. The economy was thriving. And then through this, what they call pandemic, look what's happened. Some people don't know if they even have a job to go back to, and many of them don't. So do you think maybe there might be just a little bit of stress there? Most of us today are under pressure to keep busy in our leisure hours. How many of you can really relate to this, for instance? When I'm working, and I have a part-time job other than ministry, and what I do is I drive cars for Enterprise. And when I'm working, sometimes I come home and I'm a little tired after driving all day and being on the road. So I feel if I take maybe a 30-minute or a 45-minute little cat nap, I'm going to feel really renewed. And as you lay down and put your head on the pillow and your eyes start to get heavy and they're just about ready to close, you start thinking about all the things that you got to do, all the things that are undone that you need to take care of. And instead of really getting that rest that you really like, you never really do get a chance to relax because you're thinking about that. We continually multitask all the time. I see many people, they talk and text on their phones while they're driving. We watch television while we are reading. And let me kind of tell you a little something that happened to me the other day. I was driving down the freeway when my cell phone started playing music. Usually that's the time when somebody really wants to try to get a hold of me. But I don't like talking on the phone when I'm driving. I don't like texting or any of that stuff. So I didn't answer it. And after about a minute or so, it stopped, and then it started playing music again. And then it stopped, and then it started playing music again. And I kind of figured, somebody really wants to get a hold of me awfully hard. They're not leaving any voice messages or anything. Maybe I should answer it. And when I answered it, it was my wife, Linda. And she says, Ron, I have been watching the news on television, and there's this car driving down the freeway the wrong way. Please, please, be careful. And I said, Linda, it's true. You're not going to believe this. There's not just one car, there's hundreds of them. Now, what I'll do is I'll give you a few seconds to kind of think about that a little bit. And some of you will get it right now, and some of you will get it maybe a little later on, thinking about it. What I want to do is ask you actually a question. Do you feel overwhelmed by life's speed and pressure? Honestly, do you feel overwhelmed? Let me see if you can recognize or identify any of these signs of stress. When you're driving down the road, do you run yellow lights? How many of them you really do? Or do you jockey for position on the roads or constantly change lanes? And I see this all the time, especially when I'm driving for Enterprise. We call them weavers, but they do. Our eating habits. We eat in a rush, and often while we're on the go. You either throw a TV into the microwave, or you stop by a fast food restaurant, or you simply don't eat until you really have a chance to. Do you feel you are suffering from hurry sickness? Your schedule is always filled to the limit. Mine used to be that way. I used to think Yeah, what's life if you don't have a full schedule? But I've gotten to where, you know what? I would rather have some spaces in between. So, when you have free time, are you able to really relax, or do you feel anxious, or do you feel guilty because you are relaxing? But like I had mentioned a little earlier, some stress is normal and even necessary. And I feel that sometimes we can also learn from our stress. Let me kind of give you a little example of what I mean here. When I graduated as a professional practitioner, one of the things that we had to do as a practitioner was on Sunday morning, we had to go up to the podium, and just before the minister would deliver the Sunday morning message, we had to kind of give a couple of quotes, 2 or 3 quotes, and maybe say a little something about what the Sunday morning message was going to be about. And what we would do is we would write everything on a piece of paper, so all we were carrying was a piece of paper instead of a couple of books and other things. And what we'd do is when we first got to the church, we would put them on the podium so it would be there. And that way there, when we got ready to go to the podium, everything would be just laying there waiting for me. And there was this one Sunday that the minister, the co-minister, and myself, we were going up to the front, and as we passed the podium to go sit down, I noticed that my paper was gone. It was like, ooh. And as I took my seat, I just kind of scanned over the podium up and down, and I didn't see it at all. You know, talk about sheer panic. Talk about maybe a little bit of stress. You know, what am I going to do? You know, what am I going to say? You know, I couldn't remember the quotes. I couldn't remember even what I was going to say, you know, after the quotes. And so, you know, I was just really kind of panicking, and you know, I just felt I'm going to get up in front of people. I'm really going to make a fool of myself. And what I did is I practiced what I learned in practitioner studies. And I quieted the mind chatter down in my mind. And I just started concentrating on my breathing. And silently I did spiritual mind treatment while the service was going on. You know, no one knew what I was doing other than I had my eyes closed. And I treated for calmness and clarity, and knowing that with God all things are possible. And then when it was my turn to go up to the podium, I went up and I did spiritual mind treatment on the Sunday morning message. And when I was done, turned around, I went over and I sat down. And after the service was over, not only did the minister, but so many people in the congregation came up to me. They said, that treatment was great. I mean, that was really something. So sometimes stress can help us move forward. Not all stress is really bad. For instance, you know, we feel a type of stress when we are riding a roller coaster, for instance. Or you're going to do a fast ride. You can feel that adrenaline building up. You know, you want to make sure everything is all right. You're kind of getting a little frightened. Your body's kind of going through some things. Or when we're receiving a promotion or a raise at work, that's really exciting. Or starting a new job or buying a new home. You know, there's a lot of stress in the process, but when it's over and the home is yours, let me tell you, it is all worth it. Or marriage even, or having a child. You know, this is the type of stress where our pulse quickens and our hormones surge. There's really no threat or fear. Most of it is just our adrenaline glands. You know, our days are filled with so many events, and most cause little or no stress at all, and others cause lots of stress. And some of these causes a variety of physical symptoms and emotional reactions. Do you realize that stress can cause moodiness and anxiety and make it difficult to really concentrate? And that's probably one of my problems was when I was at the podium. Because I was stressing so much, I couldn't concentrate on what I wanted to say. It can be, you can either create or make health issues worse by stress. And over time, it can lead to depression, relationship issues, and poor performance at work or school. But there are things that we can do once we begin to notice that we are having stress. There are things that we can do to help alleviate it. Some of these are you can do quiet times. Sometimes during the day when instead of getting caught up in all that rush and stuff, you could just step back for a minute. You can breathe deeply and maybe even concentrate on your breath. Meditate. That's one of my favorite because it takes you out of the world around you right now. And what it does, it brings you into the interior where everything is happening, where you feel that soothness. Or just simply relax and do nothing. You can spend some time in nature, and there is nothing like being in nature. On the beach, for instance, at the ocean, walking on the sand and feeling the sand and the heat of the sand on the bottom of your feet. Or maybe when the water comes up to the bottom of your feet, you can feel it around your toes. You can hear the ocean waves. The salt air, you can smell it. There's just nothing like being in nature. Or it could be a walk in a forest. That would be a good one. Walk in a forest or in the woods. There's nothing like being around nature, just to smell it and hear it. There is time management. You're scheduling or prioritizing your commitment so that way there you can be more productive and more efficient and give more time to breaks and stepping away from it. And you could also do what I did. You could do spiritual mind treatment. Because I believe with prayer, all things are possible. Our monthly theme is Mindfulness Matters. And this would be another way that you could alleviate stress. Mindfulness is moment by moment awareness of our thoughts. It's becoming aware of what we're thinking, maybe even what we're feeling inside and our surroundings. And we see it through a gentle, nurturing lens. We see it differently than when we're caught up into things. And when we practice mindfulness, our thoughts tune into what we are sensing in the present moment. That's one fast way to move from stress to moving out of stress, is go right into the moment, be in the moment, rather than rehashing the past or imagining the future. Mindfulness practices can help us to increase our ability to regulate our emotions. It does decrease stresses, anxiety, and depressions. And it can also help us to focus our attention as well as to observe our thoughts and feelings without judgments. It's like you're just pausing. You're just on hold. According to Ram Dass, calmness of mind does not mean that you should stop your activity. Real calmness should be found in activity itself. And I would also kind of like to end this morning with a quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes from the Science of Mind textbook. And what Dr. Holmes says is, we are poised in a sense of peace, which comes from our complete faith in God as the light, the power, and inspiration of our lives. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here and joining me this morning. And please remember, on Wednesday evenings at 7 o'clock, I host Midweek Boost with Rev Ron. I hope to see you there. Thank you.